Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Good morning and welcome to Mom Happy Hour. And if you are watching or listening on the Imperfect Momming podcast, welcome to the podcast. So I was trying to think about what I wanted to talk about today. And I was going through my emails because I think I mentioned last week that I went to counsel at camp here in California called Calvin Crest. If you're local, check it out because it's amazing. And I'm cool with my shameless plug. So we had a fantastic week. And one of the things that was really important to me this week was to unplug. I didn't do it perfectly because I have family to communicate with. I have a business that I run, but things that weren't important to me, I just, they got shoved down on the to-do list. So I am one of those people that I love having an empty inbox, email box, right? And by empty, I mean like 15 or less messages. And when I got back, there were probably 75 total in the inbox. So I was going through and cleaning those out this morning. And one of the emails that popped up was about time management. And they sent a link for a TED Talk called How to Gain Control of Your Free Time. And I've had this thought process before about, do you have time or do you make time? Like, do you have time to do the things that are important to you, or do you make time to do the things that are important to you? And it's been pointed out to me a lot recently that people have asked me, how do you get everything done? I've probably had half a dozen people ask me that in the last couple of months. And I have the story that it's like, well, I don't get anything done. Like, what are you talking about? I'm not a high producer, whatever. Like, those are just my stories. But in reality, I do get a lot done. I don't get as much done in always that I want to, but I do get a lot done. And I have, certain priorities that I make the time for the things that are important to me. I make time for things that need to get done. And so I watched this TED Talk because it was interesting to me. And it started at like the 3-minute mark. And so I didn't watch the whole thing. I ended up watching from the 3-minute mark on. And I believe that she told a story about a woman whose water heater broke and, flooded the basement or whatever, and that it took 7 hours to clean up the water heater spilling over. And the first part that I watched of the video, she says, if you had asked so-and-so at the beginning of the week if she could find 7 hours for something, she would have said no. But in actuality, she did find the 7 hours to clean up the water heater spillage, because that became an emergency, that became a high priority, and that's what she spent her time doing. So things that were less priority in that moment got pushed down. So she used a technique on this video, and I'll link it in the show notes, and I'll put it in the chat in the Facebook group. So if you are watching on the Imperfect Mommy podcast or listening there, there's a Facebook group that you are welcome to join called Raising Enlightened Children. And so that's where I go live for Mom Happy Hour. So she used a technique that I've used in my direct sales business for probably the last 10 years or so, to help people see where they have time. And there's 168 hours of time in a week. So 7 times 24 is 168. And yes, I have notes because I don't do math in my head very well. But if you subtract 8 hours of sleeping and you subtract 8 hours of work every day, you have 72 hours left. And, you know, my recruiter, my friend, we've talked about, like, okay, so there's travel time to and from work, there's getting ready time, and most people have around 12 hours. When you subtract everything that you're doing, we have about 12 hours of just free time. And what we end up doing with that free time is we scroll on Facebook, we binge watch TV shows, we do things that are just time wasters. And so if something is really important to you, you can find some time and put those things in that time. One thing that I love to do is a weekly plan sheet. And this is how I've found so much time in my schedule. And so I would start out by writing down my commitments. So in this company, we would believe in faith first, family second, and career third. So for me, faith and personal time, like those commingle. So I would cross out like the 6 o'clock hour, because that's the time that I wake up. I go and I take the dogs for a walk. And from 6 to 7, that's like the me time. So I don't set appointments before 6. I don't, there's very few things that I allow during that time. So then from 7 o'clock on, it varies. Depends on who's awake. It depends on, what activities need to get done that day. But I cross off the 6 o'clock timeout, that 6 o'clock hour. And then I cross out the times that I spend that are dedicated to like family time. So usually that's like after 3 o'clock for me. And then I would cross off things that have to do it. Today, 10 o'clock, taking the dog to the vet. That's a must. So those are the things that I write down. And I don't do this as efficiently as I can. Ideally, you would do it on Sunday and get the week scheduled out. And then what was suggested from the TED Talk from Laura Vanderkam, I believe her name is, she said, write down career, relationships, self. So It's kind of the same thing, right? The faith, family, career. And to write 2 to 3 things that you want to get done in those 3 categories every week. And if you take all of the commitments of the week, and then you see where you have your pockets of time, that's where you would itemize your goals of what you want to get done in your career, in your relationships, and with yourself. If you are a stay-at-home mom and you don't have the career, you could add household in place of career. So that is the answer to the question of how do I get things done? How do I get so much done? I also use a lot of different tools. We live in a technology world, and I love technology and I embrace it. I really, really wish that I could still use paper planners. I did not need this journal that I found at Walmart, but it's pretty and I wanted it, and so I bought it. But I use things like that to take notes. What worked really well for me last week, or the week before last, while I was getting ready for camp, there was a lot of things that I needed to do in order to have everything kind of running smoothly while I was away, because I didn't know how much internet service or cell service that I was going to have in the mountains. And so I did as much things that I could do to automate it, to schedule it ahead of time. And I needed to do a brain dump. And so I wrote down, and I have my list right here. I wrote down all of the things that I needed to do before I left, because there was some paperwork that was really important, and and the scheduling, all that kind of fun stuff that I wanted to get done before camp. So I needed that in my head, or out of my head, in front of my eyes. And so and I had, for 4 days, I had that list in front of me, and every time I would finish one, I'd cross it off, and it feels so good to do that. So I did use paper and pen in that sense. And then I have an app that I use that's called ClickUp. And there's a little bit of a learning curve to it. I had a friend show me, like, how does she do it? I watched several tutorial videos on it. And then I kind of come up with my own compromise between what I see on the tutorials and what my friend does, and then what my needs are. And so I have things on the list, and you can have them be reoccurring. You can have them have certain due dates. And I have a Pomodoro running in the background, Pomodoro app, I should say, running in the background, and it's like 30 seconds before the Pomodoro ends, and I don't want it to ring while we're talking, or while I'm talking. But Pomodoro technique is another way that I get things done and don't feel like I'm just sitting at my desk for hours on end. I'll work for 25 minutes and have a 5-minute break time, and do that 3 times, and then you get a 15-minute break. So it really helps keep you focused. And this app is called Life at Spaces. And there's a website, and you can download the app, and it really helps me focus, and it helps, it integrates with my calendar, which is really cool. So it keeps me on track. So those are just some little hints and techniques. Maybe it's a little too much. Maybe I just word vomited on you and you have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm here to support you. So if this is something that you struggle with, figuring out where to put things and when, I'd love to help support you in that. So you can shoot me an email at info@alicialyons.com. You can comment in the Facebook group. but those are the best ways to get in touch with me. Because if people are commenting on the podcast or on, maybe I'd see it if it was on YouTube, but that direct communication is the best. And if we're friends on Facebook, you can also DM me. But I hope that you found some of this helpful. We all have the same 168 hours in our week. I will say that. We don't all have the same commitments. And so there really is no one size fits all. A lot of times we need that individual support. And if you want things in your life that you don't currently have, that you're not currently getting, if you have goals that you're not reaching because of time management, that's a solution. There's a solution to that problem. So we can find that solution together. I do hope that you found this helpful. There will be another episode of Imperfect Momming for you all on Thursday. I will be back with, my brain stopped. I will be back with Mom Happy Hour next week. And there will be some other fun events coming up too. I know we're going to start doing celebration Saturdays. We're going to start having some community coaching time, as well as some other fun stuff that's coming up. So until we meet again, keep healing. Bye, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AliciaLyons.com. That's ALYSIALYONS.com. See you next time.